Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 20 of the Smart Money Sunday series. I have about 5 pairs I want to go over with you guys today. I just want to make the disclaimer that these are not trade idea signals for you guys to take. You can pair it with your own analysis. The reason why I have these risk to reward tools drawn up is to show you where I'm looking to enter. But I am not taking entries when price is getting down in here. Obviously, there is a specific set of rules that when price enters into an area of interest of ours that we look for, and we have to be able to confirm that. So again, these are not signals. These are just areas of interest that you can be looking at and pairing with your own analysis. So the first one I'm going to start off with today is AUDJPY. And I just want to note that on the higher time frames, we have been in a massive uptrend following mitigation train after mitigation train. Okay, we are looking at taking out this prior high here, because if price was going to reverse to the downside, we probably would have stopped within sort of this last buy to sell. Okay, well, we can see that we are continuing to push up very, very strongly, and that this high right in here happens to almost clear this high here. So these are relatively equal highs. We should look for continuation to the upside. The yen is quite strong, or excuse me, the yen is quite weak overall, and the Aussie and New Zealand dollar are quite strong as well. So we can see that the 1 hour 50 EMA, 4 hour 50 EMA, daily 50 EMA are all on our side as well. So we can clearly see from prior weeks before that we had, and you can go into lower time frames and look at these levels. I'm not going to go over it today because I have quite a bit to go over, but go over it and look at these levels here. These demand levels have been met time after time again, mitigating to the T and then continuing. So guys, this is really how the banks are trading. They have to get in and out of orders, distribute and accumulate orders for price to move in the proper direction. All right, so understanding this can be very, very beneficial and profitable to your trading. Do not use trend lines. Do not use chart patterns. Those do not matter. That is what retail has been taught. That is why 95% of retail traders lose. Okay, so going into kind of current price, right, we have a 10-minute level. This last sell to buy that we came into quite nicely, sweeping liquidity within here, sell to buy. We came back down and we mitigated to the T. Okay, so you could have had an entry there just following structure. You can see higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. So now what are we looking at in here? Well, we have to go down to the lower time frames, and it happened to be on the 1-minute time frame. So we have, this was our higher high, this was our higher low, but this is a mini downtrend, right? A pullback phase, and that's exactly what we got. Lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, higher high. We broke structure. Okay, so now that would make sense because we already came into a higher time frame level of interest, our sponsor candle over to the left. So we would assume that this should go long and make a higher high, which it did. And then we came down and made a higher low and then a higher high again. So the counter trend has been broken. We should now continue to the upside. All right, so we came into this last selling volume here before the big move up to the T, had a little bit of a pullback, and then we have absolutely took off from there. Going to the higher time frame, the 10-minute, you can see that we clearly swept liquidity, all this liquidity in here with this last sell to buy, right? We pulled back into that 1-minute zone, and then we pushed up to the upside, making a higher high. So it is Sunday. I don't trade Sundays. I always wait till Monday morning, New York session. So if this pushes down when a market opens, I'm not going to be taking this trade, nor I'm not going to be looking at any entry here. I always wait till New York session on Monday to begin looking at my entries. But this would be a level of interest for me. I think it's the 15-minute. It's the last sell to buy candle that swept liquidity in here, and that came into that 1-minute selling volume, right? We can clearly see with this tan box here that this is prior support, prior support, prior support. So we broke, could be a simple retest of that same zone because price has been very reactive off of the zone in the past. And it happens to be pretty much the open of this last sell to buy. So around 84,450, we can clearly see the mitigation trend, all the sponsor candles that were taken care of, all the demand zones that were hit, and the structure within that that we're following. So looking at further upside on AUDJPY, very similar to AUDUSD here. Now AUDUSD is a little tricky because the dollar is still quite strong. So we could have an overall pullback in the market, maybe come down to something in here, something in here. But overall, we are bullish, as we can see. We do have equal lows relatively, which will be taken out eventually, but we just zoom out in price here and just take a look at what we're doing. We're in an uptrend, okay? We have 0.81250 that we could come into. I'm just going to go to the higher time frame, daily time frame. We have relatively equal highs, but we did sweep that high right in here. So we could come back up into really this last selling volume. So we could come up a little bit higher and hit that level, take out all these highs in here, right? So that would be my higher time frame level of interest around 0.81, 0.81250. Or we could just continue up past that. We are above the daily 50 EMA. We are above the 4-hour 50 EMA. As we can see, we just got back above that. So we could easily continue up. However, the counter trend is currently in a downtrend. We have a lower low here, a lower high here, a lower low here, a lower high. We could easily make a lower low, right? Now, going into this level of interest, our prior lower high, there's actually a 4-minute buy to sell. 50% of it came into it to the T here. Then we fell down. We swept these highs and came up into this last supply level right in here. So we could easily just stop somewhere within this region of price here. Right, that's our last selling volume before the down move, because we technically are in a counter trend downtrend, and we can see that we did come up into that level. All right, came up into the last buying volume in here, and then we have started to push down to the downside. Now, what we have to notice is the fact that we stopped right there. We pushed down, breaking counter trend structure, creating a new supply level. Yes, you could have sold this, but technically we are still very, very bullish in this direction. So continuing to look for longs isn't a bad idea. It's kind of just contradictory because we are higher time frame bullish, semi time frame, or like middle time frame bearish, but lower time frame bullish. It's kind of weird how we're not following suit with all the time frames. Um, I know you may have questions about this. I mean, obviously the higher time frame we can see here, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. Intermediate time frame, lower low, lower high, lower low. Lower time frame, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. So we're not all on the same page right now. I really would like to get back on the same page. If we can break really this structure in here, close above that level, we'd probably continue up and be lower time frame and higher time frame. But going back to the lower time frames in here, what did we do this week or this past week? Well, we had an overall pullback in the market. Okay, we actually created a schematic play. So when we're going down to the 5-minute time frame, we had our selling climax, automatic rally, secondary test. We had our spring because we broke structure. So now we are looking to pull back and continue long. However, we did come into this prior supply and we had a reaction from that. Could we make a lower low, sweep this liquidity, come market open, and then push to the upside? That's a possibility, but I am interested in looking at buys within this sort of level here because this schematic happened to come into this last selling volume before the up move, and it swept these equal lows. We also just swept these equal lows here on Friday of last week. All right, so we came into that level basically to the T, had divergence, and then we pushed back to the upside. It's just kind of we're sort of in the middle of the range here. So going back out to the 10-minute, I mean, obviously we want to be looking to buy it, but also we did react off the supply level and it could sell off. So we're going to obviously just wait till Monday morning to see what kind of price action we can get. But if by Monday morning we did sweep these lows and then we broke structure back to the upside, breaking this counter trend, then definitely I'll be looking for a buy from that level. But right now it's like, what are we going to do? Are we going to continue to react off of this and push down, or are we going to react off of our spring and then push back to the upside? That's why I always wait for the market to settle in. And then come Monday morning at New York session, look for our first entries of the week. So I favor upside just because we are still bullish on the Australian dollar. I could see some dollar weakness to start the week, but it's sort of tricky at the moment. We can see the clear price action, the schematic, the manipulation that occurred Friday morning New York session. It swept this liquidity. This liquidity was swept, creating that demand. We came into that demand, created the schematic, and then sprung from there. So but we did react off that supply. So it's a little tricky right now. Continuing, Euro GBP. Euro GBP I like for longs. Why do I like longs? Well, yes, we still are very higher time frame bearish, which this could technically be a buy to sell formation. Right? We did come back up into sort of our last swing point here, right? Did come back up into it, tap that 4-hour 50 EMA, and we're pushing down now. So yes, technically we could create this buy to sell if we break structure back to the downside and continue short, because we still are in a higher time frame downtrend. But the reason why I am not taking longs out of the equation is because we have formed a very nice schematic, accumulation schematic, and we have sprung. So going to the 15-minute time frame, we can just see all these levels, the clear schematic formation. We finally had our spring level here, swept all of this liquidity, and then we made a move to the upside. We came down and we tested that. Now I'm going to go down to the lower time frame, 5-minute, and we can see clearly here. I think this may have been on a lower time frame, but there's a small demand zone within here, created liquidity. We sold to buy into that level, and then we made a move to the upside, breaking counter trend structure. We sprung, so now we're looking for that pullback to potentially look for longs within sort of these levels here. I like the last selling volume here and the last selling volume here. So these two levels are my areas of interest. But again, we're just going to be looking for potential entries come Monday morning. I'm just kind of giving you guys an area of interest to be looking out for. Obviously, you can take any trade that you see that pairs with your own analysis as well. So going to the next one, GBP Chef. So GBP Chef, it is a little tricky here because the only reason why I don't like Friday's close is because there's sort of momentum behind this move. Could we continue to the downside or even gap down come market open? Yeah, potentially. I do favor pushes to the upside because well, one, we are in a higher time frame uptrend. This is not a high in the market right in here. This is not a high, okay? If we're going to go short, we're probably going to sweep these relatively equal highs, create some sort of spring, fall back to the downside strongly, and then pull back and continue short. So, I do expect further upside. Are we going to sweep this liquidity to start the week and then push the upside? Potentially. That's why I'm going to be waiting till Monday, obviously. But what's going on in here? And I like the mitigation trend I'm seeing. We can clearly see that these equal lows here on a lower time frame were swept, sell to buy. I'll just go into it right now, actually. 5-minute. We can see that the last selling volume before the push to the upside here was taken with this sell to buy. Equal lows were snagged. We came all the way back up, formed a higher high, right? We pushed all the way back down and tapped that demand level. Had a reaction from it, created more equal lows, had a sell to buy, right? Creating another point of demand. Before we come down to that demand, what do we usually do? We usually generate liquidity. Equal lows. That's why you always see equal lows, equal highs before a point of demand or supply, usually, because that's what the banks are trying to initiate. Initiate buys within these levels, because that's retail support. People buy, we sweep it, take the stop losses, and then go. Because we have to come down and mitigate this anyway, so why not take some money in the process, right? So higher high was formed. We broke structure here. Well, continuing with the structure, higher high, so obviously a higher low. And we can see here equal lows in here, selling climax, automatic rally, secondary test, and then we finally sprung and broke structure here, right? Coming into that demand, and we can see clearly that we did not break this demand. I knew that we were not going to come lower than this level because this was the level that clearly swept liquidity and created that demand after a higher high was formed. So that would be the level of interest. We also had divergence on a lower time frame, which further proved that we were going to the upside. So now it's just a matter of, are we going to continue? I do believe we can continue to the upside. So around 1.29184 is where I'm going to be looking for entry. Obviously, if we come into it today, there's no entry on it, regardless of how good it looks, because I don't trade Sundays. That's just one of my rules. Sunday trading is very difficult. We want to let the market kind of settle in a little bit. Want to let the market get its feet wet, and then we can be looking for entries come the proper session, London, New York, Monday morning. All right, but I like the mitigation trading, guys. These smart money Sundays are not really to show you or give you entries. They're showing you areas of interest to be looking out for, but at the same time explaining what you should be looking for in the market to take your own trades, right? Waiting for, obviously following trend, waiting for liquidity to be run, a higher high to be formed, coming back and mitigating, seeing divergence, lower time frame schematics, just stuff like that. That's just a broad explanation. Obviously, there's so much more that goes into it, time and price, psychology, and everything. Which you can learn through our course, which is currently discounted right now. But this is just a broad overview of what you're supposed to be looking for. So that's what we're trying to help you guys out with, so you guys can become better smart money traders. All right, last one I'm going to go over NZD USD, and this is why I like GBP NZD for current shorts. We are actually in this right now. The Ariel FX team took this. Did come into our last buy to sell that swept equal highs over here that came into a prior supply. We have equal lows, so that could be the draw on liquidity. We came up and had a reaction from that and pushed to the downside. So I want to see more NZD strength coming in to further push this down. So I really would like to see NZD USD push to the upside, which I think it can do, because higher time frame, higher time frame. I mean, technically you are bearish here, but higher time frame you are very, very bullish. So we easily could continue up, just like AUD USD. We swept all this liquidity in here. Yes, we technically still have relatively equal lows here. So, we could come down further, sweep them, and then continue up. But I like the lower time frame play here, the schematic that was formed. And not only did it form, but it formed in a proper area of interest. We can go over to the left here, and we can clearly see higher, or lower low, lower high, lower low, higher high. Trend has shifted. Higher high, higher low, higher high, looking for that overall pullback, higher low for a potential higher high. We do have equal highs. So that could be the draw on liquidity that the banks could be looking to take out next. This blue line here, well, why do we have that, you ask? Well, it's really the last swing point. So the last swing point, higher low before the higher high, this is our last swing point. So 50% of this last down move here, before the up move, we actually came into that quite nicely and formed a schematic within that level. Selling climax, secondary test, automatic rally, equal lows were formed. We had one final push to the downside to take that liquidity, and then we sprung, just like AUD USD. So we made a higher high here. We are having an overall pullback in the market. You can clearly see here, kind of like a flag. So hopefully what we can do is maybe mess around Asian session, have one final sell to buy, come London or New York, and then continue up from there and respect the schematic. But again, schematics on Fridays can be quite tricky because sometimes on Sunday open, we could sweep that low and then continue taking Friday's liquidity. So we'll just have to see. That's exactly why I recommend not trading on Sundays and waiting for New York session on Monday morning before taking a trade. All right. So that is all I have for you guys. Went over 5 pairs relatively quickly. So as always, if you have any questions about anything, smart money, Wyckoff structure, anything like that relating, please feel free to message us on Telegram or Instagram. We'll be happy to help you guys out. Because really what we want you to do is we don't want to just give you handouts and anything like that. We want to teach you the content and give you that content so you can apply it to your own trading and then be profitable on your own. That's really what our ultimate goal is. So any questions you have, we'll be happy to answer them. So we'll speak to you guys, those VIP members, in the morning on Monday. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks.